Hi folks, here I am again. Richard Juhlin, Champagne Friday in Ischia. Hotel Isabella Regina Isabella. That's the right order. A lot of people say it the other way around. It's one of the most legendary hotels in the world. Definitely in Italy, but I would say top 15 in the world. It's so many fantastic movie stars that's just been here over the years, and quite recently, just over here, there was a Netflix series called Chaos that was broadcasted just over there a couple of days ago, finishing yesterday actually, and we met some of the most wonderful movie stars and became friends, drank a little bit of champagne. And here I am now with a bottle of Dom Ruinart, a nice glass, my own glass that I always bring when I go to different places. It's the third year I've been to this spot, and normally I don't like to repeat myself. I have a very safe, stable home where I want to be, but when I'm traveling, you know, I'm exploring the world. It's the champagne hiking concept, but this is a place which is something special because I have my friends, Natale, the sommelier, who is now the filmmaker behind the cameraman, and David the boss, and Raffaele, the fantastic concierge, etc. We do a lot of fun things together, and the combination between luxury and sophisticated calm and just relaxation is so superb. It's just a stone's throw from Capri, but less crowded, not so many tourists, more genuine, more rustique, not as flashy, not as snobby, but beautiful, the same kind of landscape. So I absolutely adore it, and I will surely come back many times. And I came to the conclusion that the best champagnes to bring here this time of year, when it's around, we have right now 33 degrees, a couple of days ago too humid, today a breeze is helping us, so we are coming down a little bit. It's not the perfect temperature, it's better in the evenings or even at night to do the champagne tastings here, but for sure rich Blanc de Blancs with a not too austere, not the strongest modern grower champagnes, the ecological kind of champagnes. Those will be slightly too harsh, but a sophisticated, polished, modern style, elegant Blanc de Blanc. That's my pick. And what could be better than a Comte de Champagne, Blanc de Millénaire, Amour de Dot, or the perfection for the style Dom Ruinart. One of the greatest, the oldest champagne house, born in 1729, the oldest champagne house, you know, and Dom Ruinart working approximately the same time together with Dom Perignon. That's the only link, because the houses had nothing to do with each other, Moët Chandon or Dom Perignon and Ruinart from the start. But LVMH are owning them today, and this vintage of Dom Ruinart, for me, is probably the closest link you ever see, because in all the Ruinarts and all the Merciers and in all the Moët Chandons and Dom Perignons, you have the same strain of yeast, and that typical mushroomy, coffee, reductive style that you obtain from those together is something which are so similar that even if you have a Pinot Noir based or a Blanc de Blanc, the similarities are so great, so very often in blind tastings you can go wrong between a Dom Perignon and a Dom Ruinart. And in this year, 2010, Richard Geoffroy, the great winemaker of Dom Perignon, had a lot of helping hands in this vintage, 2010. So it's very much a Dom Perignon Blanc de Blanc. I know they don't want to say that, but for me it is, and the links are not just in my imagination, it's a lot of similarities. Style-wise, it started with 59, the first vintage, and the greatest vintages of all time for Dom Ruinart is the 79, the 88, the 90 and the 96, still waiting for the full maturity in 96 in Magnums. 2010 is not one of the greatest, but one of the most early drinking and lovely in its seductive style. Notes that I find in this one, which is so suitable from the type of landscape where we are. We have the Amalfi Coast, we have Naples, we have the Capri, and here we are on Ischia. It's the same kind of landscape. You have all the pastas, but above all, you have these very sweet lemons that might be the most striking thing. The fruits, the berries that you pick here have a certain common note, and most interesting of all is this sweet lime lemon notes. Where do you find it the best in the world? Which champagne? Guess twice. Dom Ruinart. Another interesting and striking point about Dom Ruinart in general is that it's one of the few Blanc de Blancs where you also get red berries. And where do you get the red berries notes from? It's actually from Sillery. You know, Sillery is historically a Chardonnay village, but it's next to Verzenay. Verzenay, one of the top 3 villages for Blanc de Noir or Pinot Noir. But in the hands of a couple of growers like Secondé, and especially in the hands of Ruinart, you make one of the most red berry aromatically, a flinty stoniness, which brings some extra body to the Blanc de Blancs. They are not as crisp and harsh mineralic as you can find them in Le Mesnil, for instance, not as perfumed as they are in Cremant, or as creamy as you get them in Cremant, Chouilly, and in Avis. But you have a certain spice to the champagne that is very hard to dislike. So, 2010, Dom Ruinart, the most recent vintage out on the scene. Here we go. Oh, the children are singing behind. Probably they know that we're going to drink some Dom Ruinart here. Wow. I didn't expect the toastiness to be so evident, because this coffee toastedness that you always obtain is not typical for the 2010 vintage. But in the hands of winemakers from Ruinart and also Richard Geoffroy, what could you expect? The very typical Blanc de Blanc Dom Perignon note. So much espresso notes. The red berries, you can find them. And there is certain exotism to its entire behavior. I will see with the taste, but it's less exotic than most of the 2010s. And it's more astringent. It's more on this reductive coffee note style. I'm sitting here listening to the calm waves, the small bay where I swim every day with my children. It's so calm. It's such a silky water that Caruso, when he came here, he said, this is the only place I take a swim in the rest of the world each time, but when I come back to the Bay of Naples, you find something which is more silky, more seductive. That is true. And on the palate here, you have the same kind of seductive silkiness. Absolutely beautiful combination. I will not have it together with my pasta today, but I have a small reminder of this wonderful sweet lemon note. Actually, I made a pre-taste back at home. I was less impressed than I am right now. I actually think I'm gonna share this bottle, entire bottle, with Natale when we are ready, before dinner, because it's such a beautiful combination just to be here now in the shade and having all these citrusy coffee notes. The richness is there, but it's of course not cloying. It's a very low dosage. It's melting in the mouth, and it is Champagne Friday. Bye folks, see you next Friday.